Well, welcome again to another podcast, Down to Earth but Heavenly Minded. I'm your host, Irvish. And in our last podcast, we completed the reading of the holiest of all. It was a study in the book of Hebrews, and it was by Andrew Murray. And I said I didn't know where I was going to go from here with my podcast, but I've been kind of thinking back in my Christian life when I first got saved, 42 years ago. I ran across a book that really helped me in my Christian life, and it was called The Normal Christian Life by Watchman Nee. And I thought maybe we would start to look at this book. I can convert it to an audio, and we can play the entire book, but it's going to take some time because, again, I have this one here isn't in a scanned version, but it's a PDF format. And with PDF, when I copy it over, it doesn't take all the sentence structure out or the paragraph structure. It leaves it in, and even if I try to paste it as a unformatted document, it still leaves those formats in. So I literally have to go through and take them all out and reformat it. And the reason for that is because when I convert it to an audio, it will pause after every sentence, and the audio doesn't sound good. Now, I took it out for the introduction to this book, so I'll show you now how it will sound when we get into the introduction here. But I do want to say that this is on the web. You can find it if you go to the CCCE, ccel.org, and then go to the index, and you'll find the formats of the PDF files, and they got a lot of them out there. But this one particular one was copyrighted, and but they had permission to put it out there, and it can be reproduced as long as there's no changes, and also that there is it's not put out there for commercial use. In other words, if I would charge you for it, but I do not intend to charge you for it. Well, with that said, let me just show you what the cover looks like here. This is the cover to The Normal Christian Life by Watchman Nee. I remember having the book, and I had a couple copies of it because even in my second copy, you could hardly read the book because I had it marked up so much. I had things underlined and highlighted, and I had notes in the columns, and the book was quite messed up. I had a tendency to do that when I was learning something. Well, with that said, I'm going to just go ahead and try to run the audio here. Let me just do that, and we can listen to the introduction and the preface to the book. So, with that said, let's go.
The Normal Christian Life. Authors: Nee, Watchman, 1903 to 1972. Subjects: many consider this exposition of the first few chapters of Romans a Christian classic. In it, Nee defines and describes good Christian living, deriving insights from his reading of Paul's letter. His approach possesses a rare originality. Nee's theology had very few influences outside of his own study of Scripture. He stresses how God's grace both enables and challenges Christians to continue Christ's work and prepare the way for his return. Nee's own remarkable life as a Chinese missionary and martyr deepened this message. Given that Western thought and culture formed and informed the great majority of Christian writings, Nee's Eastern background brings a refreshing diversity to the corpus of commentaries on Romans. Kathleen O'Bannon. Exilstaff. Practical Theology. Practical Religion. The Christian Life. This PDF file is from the Christian Classics Ethereal Library, www.xil.org. The mission of the XIL is to make classic Christian books available to the world. This book is available in PDF, HTML, EPUB, and other formats. See link. Discuss this book online, see link below. The XIL makes CDs of classic Christian literature available around the world through the web and through CDs. We have distributed thousands of such CDs free in developing countries. If you are in a developing country and would like to receive a free CD, please send a request to the email below. The Christian Classics Ethereal Library is a self-supporting non-profit organization at Calvine College. If you wish to give of your time or money to support the XIL, please visit their webpage, link below. This PDF file is copyrighted by the Christian Classics Ethereal Library. It may be freely copied for non-commercial purposes as long as it is not modified. All other rights are reserved. Written permission is required for commercial use. The Normal Christian Life. Watchman Nee. It is no longer I, but Christ. Copyright Angus Kinnear 1961. Used by permission of Kingsway Publications. Eastbourne, England. Preface to the first edition. The author of these studies, Mr. Watchman Nee, Sheng, of Fuzhou, a true bondservant of Jesus Christ, placed a great many of us in his debt when, on a visit to Europe in 1938 and 1939, he set forth so lucidly in his ministry to many groups of young workers and others the foundation principles of the Christian life and walk. Several of the addresses forming the material from which this book has been compiled have already been published independently and have been the means of blessing to many. Others, covering similar but wider ground, have existed for long in manuscript or note form. It is with the conviction that their message merits a wider circulation at the present time that I have undertaken the editing of the available material to form this larger book. Being deprived of personal contact or communication with the author, I have myself to take full responsibility for the work of editing. This has involved the bringing together of matter from a number of sources to form a logical sequence within the framework provided by two of the original series of studies. Due to the wide variety of this material, including verbatim records of spoken English addresses, private notes of Bible readings and personal conversations, and a few translations from the Chinese, liberties, perforce, have had to be taken with the literary arrangement, not, of course, with the doctrine, making the hand of the editor more evident than I would have wished. But the privilege of close personal contact with Mr. Nee during 1938, and the help and criticism of others who enjoyed his ministry or who have worked with him, and who knew him better than I, have combined, in the few places where interpretation was necessary, to make faithfulness to his thought the more certain. Work on this book has been a searching experience. It goes out now with the prayer that its strong emphasis upon the greatness of Christ and upon the finality and sufficiency of his work may be used of God to bring his children to a place of greater spiritual effectiveness and thus of increasing value to him. Angus Kinnear. Bangalore, India. 1957. Preface to the British edition. A new edition has made possible further revision and occasional slight expansion of the text with the aid of fresh source material. An index is now provided. The reader is again reminded that the author's message in this collected form had its origin as spoken ministry. It is therefore not wholly systematic. On none of the subjects dealt with is it to be regarded as exhaustive. It should be approached prayerfully, not as a treatise, but as a living message to the heart. Angus Kinnear. 1958.
Well, that's the kind of the introduction and preface or preface to the both editions, including the British edition. With that said, I just want to say that this book has really blessed my heart, and I like the way it's laid out. Let me just jump here to the index real quick. Let's see here, about the book, contents of the book, okay. Take, for example, in the first chapter, he talks about the blood of Christ in chapter 1, but then he brings out all these different subjects on the book, and he goes into detail on it. Like if you look at the dual problem of sins and sin, the plural of sin or sin, we are, born with the sin nature. It isn't because we sin that we're sinners. Well, it is, but the problem is that we are sinners by birth. We inherited from Adam, the first father of the human race, and he fell into sin. And because we have his genes, put it that way, we are also sinners. And everybody that is born into the world, even look at a little baby, is a sinner in God's eyes. But God has mercy on a child if a child dies. And the reason for that is he has not reached the age of accountability or reasoning. I remember in camp one year, I had a young fella come up, and I asked him, I told him he was responsible to, either accept Christ or not accept him. It's his choice. He says, I don't have to worry about it. He says, my father told me that I'm not responsible till I'm 21. Well, I said to him, let me just ask you one question. I said, do you know the difference between right and wrong, good and evil? Yeah, he says. Well, he says, then you're accountable to God. And I walked away, didn't say any more to him. Well, this really ate on him all day long. And when we were at the supper table in the dining hall, he got up and he walked out because I could see his eyes were teary. And I knew that he had gone back to the barracks. I believed he did anyway. So I had my junior counselor stay with the group, and I went back and I found him sitting on his bed and he was crying. He said he was thinking about what I had said about being accountable to God, and we all are accountable to God in our actions, because we know the difference between right and wrong. It's within us that we can reason it out. We've come to the age of accountability and reasoning, and anybody who can think straight knows that when things are wrong and when they're right. Well, in God's eyes, there's nothing we can do to appease for the fact that we are sinners. We cannot do nothing. Like one hymn says, nothing in my hands I bring, only to the cross I cling. And this is so true. Our only salvation from our sinful nature is Christ. He was the sinless one, and we have to rely on his shed blood. And that's what this book is really about. It tells us the problems as we go through the book of Romans. It's a beautiful book. And God's remedy, he has a dual remedy, the blood and the cross. Yes, the blood atones for my sins, but the cross deals with the problem of sin in my life. I've been crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live. But not I, but Christ lives in me. Christ lives through me. And that's why I put all these podcasts together, and this is why I love these old writings, and these were great men of God that God had raised up. Now, Watchman Nee went to Europe in 1938 and 39. Well, in 1938 was the year I was born. So I've never met Watchman Nee, but I will meet him in heaven. I really will. And I believe that if you want to really understand how to get to heaven, you have to really seek out God. He's out here and he can be found. And I'm going to end my podcast like I normally end them, and that's the fact that God is out here, and you can find him in your Bible. So besides reading these good books, like this one here, The Normal Christian Life, and I would say a good thing would be maybe to go out and even get the book and read it. But also you can go through these podcasts, because I plan on recording this entire book an audio format. So with that said, I'm going to end my podcast here, but be watching, because I'm going to start on putting these lessons together. And it may take me a little while, but eventually I'm going to go through all the chapters, and there's a lot of chapters. So, and in fact, here, let me see how many there are. Let's see, 160. Okay, well, there's 168 pages, so there's quite a few chapters. And if I'm not mistaken here, let me just jump to the last one here. I think this is the last one, which would be chapter 14. I think there's 14 chapters in the book. So with that said, I'm just going to leave you for now, and I hope you have a good day, and God bless. Till next time. Bye now.